Hello everyone and welcome to the Coach's Corner at Performance EDU with Coach Dale. And today I want to talk about a common fault I see with a exercise that most strength conditioning programs will have for just about anybody. Now, there would be a reason to actually program sort of into this fault or something similar to it. With that being said, most of the time it's something we want to avoid, and that is excessive rotation at the hips during this movement. So again, most of the time when we're doing these strength exercises, what we're trying to do is actually limit the amount of excessive rotation that we have, or any excessive rotation that we may have, where we're defaulting into a path of least resistance for our body that is probably translating into our compound or bilateral movements. And we want to avoid that and train out of it by using unilateral movements like the single leg RDL. Now, what I'm talking about is when people go into, or a common fault that people can have when they go into a single leg RDL, is they will lose their center of gravity and their ability to maintain balance, and they'll dump into a compensation pattern. Again, either where they're opening up the back hip or they're closing the back hip into one of these rotated situations. Now again, there would be reasons that we would program to actually do these exercises in this manner, but most of the time it's something you'll actually want to avoid. So with that being said, if you're trying to limit the amount of rotation rather than add it, here are some things that you want to do for your single leg RDL. So the first you want to do is you want to focus in the 2 points in which you're loaded or rooted actually to the floor and then to the implement itself. So the first of which is going to be getting a good balanced tripod foot. So we have point of contact, the ball of the big toe, ball of the pinky toe, middle of the heel, and we've got good tension built up underneath our arch. Now, if we're using a tool, right, something like the dumbbell, one of the things that is commonly not really spoken about is making sure that that shoulder is packed into a neutral position. It shouldn't be overly retracted, and it certainly shouldn't be forward into protraction. You want to make sure that that shoulder, right, is squeezed directly to our side. A cue I like to give is squeeze your armpit or hold a newspaper in your armpit. Now from here, to avoid and limit that excessive rotation, what we're going to do, either the internal or external rotation of the hip, is we're going to turn this back hip towards the floor and push it down as we hinge. And that's going to keep us from opening up. Another thing we're going to do is actively pull down into this opposite hip flexor to help us maintain our center of gravity so that we're not losing our balance forward or backward. Since we're loading into our posterior line, we want to make sure that we still have good center of gravity directly over that point where we're hinging at the hip. So we want to be active in that hip flexor, right? So from here, got the shoulder packed, balanced over the foot, turning that hip down towards the ground, pulling myself down into this hip flexor is going to limit the amount of rotation that I have as I do this exercise. And that is limiting excessive rotation in the single leg RDL.